Hi, welcome back to our fireside chats. I am Millason. I am the pastor at Calvary Presbyterian Church in South Pasadena, and this is our third fireside chat since we entered into lockdown here in California. I do not know about you, but out of all of the weeks so far, this by far has been the hardest week. One of our family members got really sick, and we were all worried that she had COVID-19, and she was able to get tested. And luckily, the test results came back negative, but it was still incredibly anxiety-inducing while we were waiting for the results. And then once we got the results, there was just this sense of guilt that we had wasted a perfectly good test in a way. Then one of my friends from Princeton passed away this week. A church member here at Calvary passed away traumatically. Another church member lost her mom. And on Monday, I did a funeral for someone else. And it was not the funeral that people had anticipated or expected or envisioned. There were lots of rules. We all had to stay 6 feet apart. We couldn't talk or socialize with one another. And it was just a very small handful of people and me. And so there's just been a lot of things that have happened this week that have made it incredibly hard. And one of the things that we have been doing here at Calvary is having weekly Zoom calls where people jump on and they share how their week is going and what they're worried about. And it's just a way of having some face-to-face interaction and checking in on others. And in our Zoom calls, people have been expressing just how anxious they are and how hard this lockdown has been on them. And so I wanted to address that, and I wanted to start off by sharing a quote. And the quote is, "You feel what you feel, and those feelings are real." And if you are a mom like me, then you probably recognize that quote as being from Frozen 2. And it's Sven the reindeer talking to Kristoff. But regardless of where that quote comes from, it's 100% accurate. You feel what you feel. And whatever it is that you feel, those feelings are real. And I think that one of the things that we often do, especially as Christians, that is a huge disservice to ourselves and to the rest of the Christian community, is we always feel bad if we have a negative feeling, whether it's sadness or depression or confusion or anxiety. And then those feelings that we have that we deem as negative, we try to hide those feelings from God. And if there is anything that the Psalms as a collective whole have taught us, is that it's okay to feel all of those feelings. And it's okay to share those feelings with God. In fact, it's more than okay. We're supposed to share our feelings with God. Whatever feelings you are feeling, they are real. And God wants to hear them, and God wants to know about them. This week I came across an article that said, "Why is there no response to the coronavirus from Christianity?" And I thought that that was a really interesting question. And I would say that there is a Christian response, but that it's probably not the response you're expecting, or maybe even the response that you want to hear. what we believe is that you can have whatever feelings you have. You can share those feelings with God, that God is big enough and strong enough and powerful enough to take those feelings. And God is even big enough and strong enough and powerful enough for us to wonder things like, why is this happening? Why did God allow this? When is this going to be over? When is this going to be okay? God can handle all of those feelings too. And while there may not be an answer, a definitive answer to this is why God is doing this is why this is happening, what we can know for certain is that God is with us. The reality is that outside of this lockdown, outside of this pandemic, there are 100 million horrible things that happen every single day that are an indication of how broken humanity is and leave us wondering, why did this happen? Why did God allow this? And in all of those things, God is there and God is right next to us. And God never ever leaves us. But it's not just that God is next to us. I think about the book Night by Elie Wiesel, and there is a part in the book where this young boy is hanged. And they take all of the people there at the concentration camp and they all gather them together and they force them to stand there and to watch this young boy be hung to death. And as they're standing there and they're watching this horrible, traumatic thing happen, Elie hears someone say, "Where is God?" And he thinks to himself inside his head, he's right there, hanging in the gallows. And God is right next to us all the time. But God is also experiencing what we are experiencing. So when we are sad, God is sad. When we are anxious, God is anxious. When we are depressed, God is depressed. And I don't know if that gives you comfort. And it's okay if it doesn't. But it gives me comfort in knowing that the God that I serve is big enough to allow me to feel whatever I feel. That the God that I serve is big enough to hear all of my feelings and to take them. And that the God that I serve is big enough to experience all those things with me. So that I am never ever alone. And you are not alone either. God is next to you. God is feeling all of those feelings. They are all real and worth sharing. And so if you are thinking to yourself, my God, why have you forsaken me? Which is the very beginning of Psalm 22 and what Jesus says when he is there on the cross. Know that you are not forsaken and that God is holding your hand. Amen.